Namaskar and welcome to the Economic Brief, where we get you news related to the economy, business and finance, and we contextualize it from a local as well as a global perspective. So let's begin with the show, and on the show today we have Prime Minister Narendra Modi's comments to Chief Ministers and Lieutenant Governors at the 9th Governing Council meeting of NITI Aayog, where he talked about Viksit Bharat plan. Pakistani entrepreneurs seem to have little faith in their government, with business confidence index at minus 14%. We look at whether expenditure on hosting an Olympics has a long-term multiplier or is just a drain on the host country's resources. And finally, we leave you with a collection of news stories in brief from the business world. Now, first up, we are going to talk to you about the Prime Minister addressing the 9th Governing Council of the NITI Aayog. And the Prime Minister spoke about many subjects. He spoke, first of all, to the 20 states and 6 union territories. Chief Ministers of 20 states and union territories were present there, Lieutenant Governors. About the remarks, he talked about collective efforts from the centre as well as the states to realize a Viksit Bharat. And that implies also Viksit Bharat states. And then he has called upon the states, as we can see here, to create their own vision documents. And this would include each state and district can create a vision for 2047 Viksit Bharat. He talked about river grids by the states for water management, one of the important aspects, and to initiate a demographic dividend management plan. This is to address the problems of population, aging population, which could come in the future, but currently also skilling and training of youth to make them employment ready, and zero poverty should be the goal and a priority for Viksit Bharat. Then he talked about implementing measures to foster competition. This is something for the NITI Aayog to do. India has strengthened social as well as economic factors and infrastructure. India now, in fact, is one of the strongest economies in the world, exporting to various parts of the world. And this is the confidence, the Prime Minister said, of 140 crore Indians. It's that enthusiasm which is the driving force of India. He also talked about the Aspirational Districts program, which is anchored by NITI Aayog. And then there is to leverage the centre's FDI policy. Here's something that the NITI Aayog is supposed to do. It's supposed to prepare an investment-friendly charter, and the NITI Aayog is to study the suggestions given by the states and to come out with a comprehensive plan. Then he has asked the states, in fact, we move to the next slide, to ranking by the NITI Aayog. This is to create some competitive federalism in the country. NITI Aayog to rank the states and to create a competitive and cooperative federalism, an atmosphere to bring out the best in each state. The Prime Minister has called for investor-friendly charter, and that would imply that India is to achieve steady growth in the past 10 years. We can see that taking forward the collective aim of the government, of all its citizens, to make India the 3rd largest economy of the world. All these things should be factored in. That driving force is to move forward. India is strengthened by social and economic infrastructure, as we said earlier. And then he's talked about charter to detail policies, programs, and ranking on the basis of law and order, infrastructure, and good governance. These are the aspects in which the NITI Aayog is going to work with the states to try and create that Viksit Bharat overall plan for 2047. This is a Team India plan. And the Prime Minister, a few days after that, spoke to CII, the industry chamber CII, and he told entrepreneurs and business leaders about the plan, about how the states are going to work together to create a Viksit Bharat. Let's listen to what the Prime Minister said.
मैंने नीति आयोग की बैठक में भी अभी जब मुख्यमंत्रियों से मीटिंग हुई तो मैंने उनसे कहा है कि इन्वेस्टर फ्रेंडली चार्टर तैयार करे हर राज्य, राज्यों के बीच एक हेल्दी कंपटीशन हो, इन्वेस्टमेंट को आकर्षित करने के लिए। और मैं नहीं चाहता हूं कि मेरे देश का एक भी राज्य पीछे रह जाए।
So joining us now from the bustling financial and technological hub of Gurugram near Delhi is Dr. Amit Kapoor. He's the chairman of the Institute of Competitiveness. He's a visiting scholar at Stanford University, California. Thank you very much, Dr. Kapoor. Now, the Prime Minister said that Viksit Bharat, it can be realized through Viksit states, developed states. So how important is it then for the states to compete to become investment destinations on their own?
So this is a very important point that the Honorable Prime Minister has said, that if you talk about any country for that matter, it's a sum of locations within the country. So when I talk about location, it's a sum of states that we actually see here. So we have those 28 states, the union territories, and we have to understand as to what drives each one of those states. So let's discern this data a little more, or try to understand it a bit more. When you talk about India, Maharashtra, Gujarat, Karnataka, or Andhra and Telangana, they do exceedingly well in terms of economic growth. But you also have the laggards out here in terms of the performance of states like, say, Bihar. Yes. Today, if you really look at the number, when you talk about Maharashtra, Maharashtra possibly is the richest state in the country, gets the highest level of contribution to GDP. You have Bihar, which is the bottom, again, in the bottommost category of the economic performance, and their per capita income is the lowest in the country as well. So if you really look at it, so it becomes exceedingly important that each state needs to draw its own trajectory, keeping in mind the overall trajectory that the country wants to do. Because if the states don't do well, yes, then the country does not do well. It's effectively going to be a sum total. And in each state, there are going to be districts. Okay. And if you really look at the data per se, and just a small point here, that the top 100 districts in the country contribute close to about 80% of India's GDP. So that means the whole aspect goes down, and you have to go deeper in terms of understanding what we can do with the other set of districts. And that is what the Honorable Prime Minister has said. And when competition happens, the attraction of FDI would, of course, be there, because investment is always going to be looking at an attractive destination. So the idea is that it is not that Indian states are competing against each other. Today, we are competing across the globe. It is that Maharashtra is competing with Vietnam or Thailand for investment. And that's the same case for either Bihar or UP as well. UP is not only competing with Maharashtra, it is competing with the other nations in, say, Africa itself for attracting investment. So that is what the whole idea is, that we compete amongst each other. That's a healthy thing in terms of really creating that mechanism of the best performance within the country. But we are looking at something what you would call as a global benchmarks as you move along.
Dr. Kapoor, how confident are you, given India's growth potential, of India achieving zero poverty as a target?
Oh, I think that's a given. It's not something which is a debatable point. Eventually, India will get to the zero poverty thing. The question is going to be that how do we want, if you really look at the multidimensional poverty that the government has been talking about, that NITI Aayog did that report, we are already in the single digit figures. So once we are able to really understand that economic development is just not about what you call creating infrastructure, it is also about creating social infrastructure. And that is what the aspirational district program effectively talks about. Yes. So you are moving in tandem. So I think we will be able to achieve zero poverty. The larger question is going to be that how do we really push forward by creating that employment and everybody just moving up the scale. So the next story, yes, India is going to be the third largest economy in the world in the next few years itself. Now the other thing is going to be, as we develop, the per capita incomes will rise. We will, when India becomes a developed country by 2047, and the figure could be anything close to about $18,000 to $22,000 as per capita income. That's a very interesting point, because today we are at just about $2,800, and suddenly you're at about $20,000. You're talking about 20-time growth. Look at that effect or impact it would have on the consumption system, on the manufacturing system within the country. Yeah. We are just starting right now. I think we are just at that cusp of that hockey stick growth when things will start moving.
So it will be clearly a strong demand pull. But, how important are sectors of agriculture, education, skill development in realizing this vision of Viksit Bharat? I mean, do you see center and states actually working out a comprehensive plan to maximize the potential in these sectors?
I think there is no choice. Like, if India wants to move ahead, the states and the central government or the federal government will have to work together. and they have shown a very what I call great resilience or a great prospect for really doing that over the last few years, over the last decade or so. And if you really talk about the sectors itself, agriculture becomes very important from a single point of view that today it has close to about 40%, 45% of the employment. So you have to make sure that people move away from agriculture because they have to look at some higher productivity sectors. We need to improve productivity in agriculture, but they need to go to higher productivity sectors. And what are those sectors? They are effectively going to be healthcare. Healthcare is very nascent in India right now. You have what I call some great, excellent hospitals, doctors, what I call capabilities from innovation point of view, but they are pocketed in certain set of areas. So what we need to really do is that how do we take it to the other set of cities, all the districts within the country? If we are able to do that, look at the multiplier, look at the jobs it creates, look at the opportunities it creates. So we are just going to into that sector itself. Education as a hub. I think if you ask me, India has the greatest potential to be the education hub in the world. I think because of the talent that is there, one, of course, the young
Right.
population has a great internal market, but the possibility of attracting people from outside is also tremendous.
Dr. Kapoor, stay with us while we move on to our next story, which is about Pakistan. Pakistan's economy is struggling to recover from high inflation and the IMF-imposed structural reforms. The business community there is finding the going tough with load shedding affecting their output. Apart from this, they believe that they are paying high taxes to an administration that doesn't seem to be functioning properly. The common man, too, is finding the twin problems of high inflation and power cuts a hard burden to bear. Take a look at this report. People have been taking to the streets in Pakistan. Supporters of the Pakistan Tehreek-e-Insaf Party and others are rallying against political targeting and soaring electricity bills. Unfortunately, neither issue is expected to be resolved soon.
Inflation is high, electricity bills are high, businesses are getting destroyed, the economy is in shambles. All this is because of our rulers and IPPS. God willing, we will continue the sit-in until our demands are met. We are not getting up before that.
The protests reflect deeper divisions within Pakistani society. The Shahbaz Sharif government faced a new setback when a Gallup Business Confidence Index report revealed widespread criticism from businesses regarding economic mismanagement. Out of 454 businesses surveyed, ranging from small to large, 85% expressed disapproval of the government's strategy.
Remove taxes from the masses. Impose those taxes on landlords. Remove the taxes from our electricity bills. What nonsense in that you impose 36 different types of taxes in the power bills. You are increasing the rates of power and then increasing taxes on them also.
Inflation soared to 12.6%. The persistent problem for Pakistanis is the continuous disruption of power supply and load shedding. Pakistani authorities want Chinese power plants to shift to local coal rather than use imported coal. China has set up over $20 billion worth of energy projects in Pakistan.
One of the key purposes of me going along is the conversion of our imported coal units to the local Thar coal. That would have a huge impact on the cost of energy of power in the near future.
According to a Gallup survey, 60% of businesses reported severe load shedding issues. This quarter, 16% more businesses noted an increase in power outages due to the strain on the country's energy infrastructure during the summer. Negotiations are underway with Chinese authorities to reschedule energy sector loans. However, the Gallup survey indicates a bleak outlook, with the net future business confidence score now at minus 14%.
It's unpredictable. It's going to be, there is a lot of elasticity of demand, we believe, in terms of price, related to price. But our major challenge is to get the demand to stop shrinking.
The International Monetary Fund has suggested structural reforms to the power sector. Last month, the IMF had agreed on a $7 billion bailout for the heavily indebted South Asian nation. The Economic Brief, DD India. Well, let's turn to Dr. Amit Kapoor once again. Dr. Kapoor, do you feel that Pakistan's economy, can get out of this crisis with IMF-monitored structural reforms?
Like Pakistan is a real unfortunate situation that we are seeing right now. It is a complete collapse of an economic, whatever country's balance sheet, if you might want to say it in a very easier term. They are absolutely debt-ridden. There is huge low levels of confidence within the business. Tax rates are going haywire. If you really look at the growth rate, Pakistan's growth rate this year has been 0.2%, and it is expected to grow at about 1.8% with this bailout. So if this bailout is that $7 billion bailout that you're suggesting is not going to be the panacea of all evils, it is just going to be kickstarting to a certain extent of about 1.8%. But keep in mind that Pakistan's population growth is at about 3.5% right now. So that means the per capita income is not going to rise. You're still going to get poorer from a person point of view over a period of time. Inflation is at about 26% right. If that is the level of inflation, that means you're talking about a catastrophic situation out there. I think this whole debt crisis, like Pakistan now has to decide for itself as to who are their friends. Like if you really look at China's strategy per se, it's been a very interesting what I call strategy across the world, across the countries to put them in debt and lead them to a collapsible situation. And that's exactly what has happened with Pakistan as well. So they need to be very careful with their friends and really move forward. To get out of it, this bailout is a very small chunk. They have to really do a lot of fiscal prudence. They have to make sure that you are able to take, or at least go to those basic things like food and electricity, shelter, which is protected for its people. That is the basic thing that you have to do to begin with.
Now, you did mention China. Do you think that excessive dependence on China is affecting the business confidence in Pakistan? I mean, the local businesses as well, because the country is dependent on Chinese imports. It's depleting the foreign exchange reserves, and it's not giving the local businessmen enough to compete with. I mean, yeah, go ahead.
Absolutely. But if you really look at the China thing, like China's scale in front of Pakistan is absolutely humongous. Like it's not even an equal partner. It was a writing on the wall that this is going to happen over a period of time. I think the problem has been that the Pakistan what I call administration has been blindsided onto this reality, and they're focused too much on conflict or whatever, and just creating that whole idea of community conflict within their country, and that is what has really pushed them down. It is always going to be that be resilient and really move forward with things. The problem has been that their economic strategy has never had any indication as to what they need to do for the future. What are the sectors they want to get into? We had some great sectors over the past, cotton products and things, but they have effectively killed that. And now when you talk about Pakistan and China per se, China controls effectively most of the things or that are being sold in Pakistan right now. Pakistan's manufacturing system is effectively dead. So that is where the crisis is. If they don't revive it, there is nothing that is going to happen in terms of either jobs. You will inflate continuously. You will not get food. You will get into a crisis of sorts that becomes fairly unbearable. But now the thing is going to be, and I'm just making a huge statement, it is Pakistan. I think the world cannot afford to see Pakistan fail, because a failed state next to us is going to be a very, very dangerous situation.
Okay.
So maybe at some point in time, the world will have to say that, okay, now Pakistan needs to actually be helped and really move forward and things.
So you mentioned that, but protests are one thing, but what can be done now to motivate business interests to try and recreate some sort of the animal spirits within Pakistan?
So I think, like they can take something from India's book itself. Like India has done something phenomenal over the last few years. I think there are two punctuation points which I say are a great learning experience for any economy in crisis. One was the 1991 crisis that India said. So we opened up. But there was a very important thing that happened in the last 2 years that a lot of people don't realize, and that is about taxes. We reduced the corporate tax to 25%. If you are able to compete on that, that is going to enable a lot of investment, because you have to find a way that investments within Pakistan happen, and that too is the private sector investment. So they have to go towards opening up their sectors and let the private investment happen within their country, create those local enterprises, focus on your MSMEs, give some impetus to them. only then things will start changing. And it is not, it's a fairly difficult battle for them. It's not going to really give results in the next 6 months. It is a 24 month to a 36-month period before anything will start revving up. So that is where it is. So as I said, $7 billion just expected to give about 1.8% growth rate. You're already talking about at least 5 years to 7 years for this economy to just basically stabilize and then move to a certain political growth trajectory.
Well, Dr. Amit Kapoor, Chairman of the Institute of Competitiveness and visiting scholar at Stanford University, thank you very much for joining us and enlightening us on these subjects. Now, moving on to our next story, the Paris Olympics, it's estimated to cost about $9.7 billion for France. It's much less than the $13.7 billion spent by Tokyo and $23.6 billion spent by Rio, the nearly $17 billion spent by London. But most of these countries found expenses being a strain on their economies. But Paris, may be showing the way for future cost-effective mega sporting events. This report has more.
More than 10,700 athletes from over 200 countries and millions of spectators. That's the Paris Olympics in a nutshell. The French capital is hosting the world's biggest sporting event. The games require state-of-the-art infrastructure, round-the-clock security and cutting-edge facilities for athletes. Naturally, a colossal event requires colossal spending. But Paris 2024 is being hailed for being cost-effective. The Paris Olympics estimated cost is nearly $9.7 billion US.
We paid attention to sustainable development long before. We also paid attention to low energy transportation. So the Paris Games will set an example for the future events in terms of economy that must be environmentally friendly. It's very important.
To understand why the Paris Games are low budget, it's imperative to look at how much the previous Olympics cost. According to estimates, Tokyo 2020 cost $13.7 billion. Brazil's Rio de Janeiro spent $23.6 billion to host the 2016 Olympics, while London 2012 cost nearly $17 billion. So why are the Paris Games less expensive than their predecessors? Paris has a robust infrastructure. Nearly 95% of the venues for the Paris Olympics existed before the city won the bid to host the Games. Cost aside, hosting the Olympics has several economic advantages. It helps boost tourism and in turn create jobs. And then there's also the honor of hosting the greatest sporting event across the globe. The Economic Brief, DD India.
Well, it's time to conclude this program, but we leave you with business news in brief. Thank you very much for watching the Economic Brief. Namaskar.
The Bank of England cut interest rates from a 16-year high after a narrow vote in favour from policymakers divided over whether inflation pressures had eased sufficiently. Reddit is acquiring Memorable AI, a startup that uses generative artificial intelligence to help marketers create better ads. CrowdStrike is being sued by its shareholders after a faulty software update by the cybersecurity firm crashed more than 8 million computers. UK's competition watchdog is investigating Google parent company Alphabet's partnership with AI startup Anthropic and its impact on competition. A US judge ordered Wells Fargo to face a lawsuit alleging it defrauded shareholders by proclaiming its commitment to diversity hiring. The US Department of Energy said it has finalized a contract to purchase 4.6 million barrels of crude oil for the Strategic Petroleum Reserve. Tesla is recalling over 1.8 million vehicles in the United States due to risk of software failure to detect unlatched hood. McDonald's reported a surprise drop in sales worldwide as deal-seeking consumers shy away from higher-priced menu items. Procter & Gamble missed Wall Street expectations for fourth quarter sales on weak demand for its skincare products in major market China. Spirits maker Diageo missed its full-year profit forecast as sales sank in Latin America and the Caribbean.